Hi, my name is Christian, and today we're going to go over Wave 3 and Beyond ship suggestions that I have from the expanded universe as well as the movies themselves. The first one is from the expanded universe, and I think it's very obvious that it'll be a very good fit. It's the Interdictor class Star Destroyer cruiser, also known as the Immobilizer class. It's kind of confused sometimes. It's like kind of used interchangeably, but it's essentially the smaller Star Destroyer that has the like bump out bubble emplacements on it, and essentially it's used in games and in the novels for two different reasons. One,
It's also making an appearance in Star Wars Rebels.
yeah, so it is actually shown in Star Wars Rebels, which is good. So now that will be canon. So more likely that they'll bring the ship in. So what's special about this ship class is that it creates a gravity well that messes up hyperspace systems. So if the Empire turns the feature on, ships can't flee and run away, which is obviously something that the rebels do all the time. There are a lot of hit and run attacks. So this was a ship that the Empire used against the rebels quite a bit outside, like during the timeline of the movies, but it's not shown in the movies and definitely shown a lot in the expanding universe. A lot of my ideas I'm borrowing slash stealing from the Star Wars game Empire at War, which is a strategy game. It was used very prominently in that game. It was very interesting. So the hyperspace assault, that's kind of like a something beyond the game mechanics, except for maybe it could adjust hyperspace assault. I'm thinking maybe if that objective type is used and you have this ship, if you do hyperspace assault, maybe it can move the objective tokens. If anything within range 5 of the ship, it can just move those markers just beyond the range 5. So it can essentially create like a buffer around it that the ships just can't jump in and surprise your fleet. In terms of the game mechanics, I'm thinking what it should do, just like it does in the expanding universe and it does in the very cool TIE Fighter animated movie, which we'll go ahead and put a link in, that shows very coolly it messes up enemy guidance systems. So I'm thinking any ship within range 5 of the ship, any black dice are treated as if they're obstructed. Even if it's not fighting this individual ship, I think it should create like a buffer that any ship black dice are reduced by 1. It's essentially that's obstructed. And I think any bombers within this range should attack with a blue dice instead of a black dice, just to show like how much their ability is limited. So obviously it's going to become an important target to destroy this ship, so it gives you the full utilization of your bombers and any black dice ships you'll have. And I think this would be a good counter to the Rebel Scout frigate that was just added to MC-30, which is a great ship, and all those black die are going to be very damaging, as well as a counter to mirror matches where you had the Gladiator class ship. I think bringing this will be a really interesting way to counter both fighter builds as well as the ones that are black dice heavy. So I really think it'll be a really interesting mechanic. I definitely think that this ship should be brought in. But since it has this supportive role that has this large range of influence, I definitely think it should be weaker than the Victory Star Destroyer, significantly weaker. I think maybe only 2 red, 2 blue from the front, maybe only 1 of each on the sides. It should definitely be a weaker vessel than the Victory Star Destroyer, but maybe cost about the same. The next ship is also from the expanded universe and the Star Wars Empire at War game. It's the TIE D type Defender. It's kind of weird looking. I'm not exactly sure how it would land or how the pilot would ever get in there, but all the TIE ships don't really seem to be particularly practical. But It's supposed to be in the expanding universe very similar to an E-Wing. It has a hyperdrive, it actually has a shield, so that they actually care about the pilot. Unlike all the other TIEs where they're just completely disposable. So, in the expanding universe, what keeps the Empire from building the ship is that it's massively expensive. That a single ship is expensive as an entire squadron as the regular TIE fighters. So it's just not nearly as implemented. But it's supposed to be pretty close to on par of the X-Wing. I don't know if the stats would be exactly the same, but I definitely think that they should bring it in, make it maybe even more expensive than the X-Wing, and maybe slightly, like either way, however it's balanced. But I definitely think the TIE Defender would be a cool fighter to include into the Imperial arsenal. It's also, unlike most of the other, since they only have the TIE bomber, while the Rebels have bombers up the wazoo, it'll be nice for the Empire to have more than just one basic type of bomber. The next ship, which will completely introduce a new mechanic, is I think Shuttlecraft should be introduced. And again, it's very prominent in the movies. All of them have these Imperial shuttles flying around. When the Death Star is about to be destroyed, Tarkin is offered if his shuttle should be prepared. If you read the Lords of the Sith novel, the Emperor uses a shuttle to leave a Star Destroyer that's like very damaged. Spoiler alert to the first few chapters of that book. Shuttles are used by, or could be used by, command staff to leave a ship that is possibly going to be destroyed. So what I'm thinking is that the shuttle mechanic, whether or not it's just an upgrade or it's an actual little squadron, I guess it would probably be a squadron because they would like to sell you an extra little squadron. I think the shuttles, whether or not there's a different one for the Empire and a different one for the Rebels, or the Rebel transport uses this function, but I think what you could do at the end of your turn, you could essentially bring a shuttlecraft if it's adjacent to the base of your ship. If that ship is destroyed, the admiral, the command staff, maybe even gunnery teams, anything that is a human upgrade could be essentially, whether or not you put a limit of 2 of those things or 1 of those things, that's up for the game testers to determine. But I think that'll be a really interesting mechanic if your admiral's on the ship that has been targeted, you think it's going to be destroyed, you get to flee on that shuttle, and if that shuttle touches another ship and becomes adjacent to that, the admiral can resume command of the fleet and still be alive. You wouldn't have the admiral's power while he or she is just on the shuttlecraft, but once he or she is aboard a new ship, then they can resume control and the upgrade can be brought back in. I think it'll be really interesting. I think it'll be interesting insurance as these fleet builds get bigger and bigger. It's now at 400 points. Maybe it'll stay at 400 points, but I could see it maybe being 500. I think as more ships get introduced and these admirals become more and more valuable, that you're going to want to keep them alive. So this is an interesting way of doing it. And it'll give another target for fighters to fight against. It will be very limited self-defense. Like if you look in, like the ships have some, maybe have a life of 6, but an anti-squadron roll of maybe 1 or 2 blue dice, something like that. But I think it'll be a really interesting mechanic.